Oh, hey, 1 second. I'm gonna start the recording now, okay?
I'm doing great, man. Giving thanks for life, you know?
All right, so we're listening
All
to
right, cool.
Trample Them by Kabaka Pyramid. Hang on, I'm gonna actually share my screen. I love doing these on Zoom, so we could have. Oh no, I went to an ad. All right, here we go. This is called Trample Them by Kabaka Pyramid. Actually, this is an ad for a skateboard. There we go. We got Trample Them. Hey, what's up, Kabaka? How are you doing?
Hey, yo, I'm going. Giving thanks for life, man.
Yeah, man. I like your music. It's got a cool sound to it. I gotta admit, I don't understand all the words, but
It's all good.
how are you doing? Where are you calling in from now?
I'm at home in Kingston, Jamaica right now.
Houston, Jamaica. How's it going over there? You guys recently got a whole bunch of hurricanes, didn't you?
Yeah. There were a few that passed through. I was actually in Florida at the time, spending some time with my mom, but I just came back recently. So I missed the hurricanes, but I'm seeing the effects with all the flooding and the roads are dug up and everything, you know?
Oh, that sucks. Yeah,
Oh,
we're in
it
we're in
is.
Florida. I'm in Miami right now.
Oh yeah, I was in South Florida, like Broward, but close to Miami.
Broward, yeah, I know Broward. Yeah, I'm,
Yeah,
I'm
man.
here. I'm here for Thanksgiving. I'm visiting my wife's family for
Oh,
Thanksgiving.
nice.
We're here not just for Thanksgiving. It's because she's growing a baby right now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, our,
Congrats.
our first one. Thank
Congrats.
you, thank you. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, more life.
Yeah, more life in the world, and hopefully beautiful, wonderful life that takes on this sort of consciousness that
Of
we
course.
love to practice. This I wouldn't force her to meditate. I wouldn't brainwash her to do anything. But personally, I really hope she grows up as a meditator and somebody who really gets into the whole spirituality thing. But who knows? Maybe she'll be like very like accountant, atheist. Who knows? Who knows what she'll.
Well, how I see these things, how I see these things is like on some level, whether consciously or whether with the help of like guardian spirits, we choose our parents. You know what I mean? So if a soul is born to parents who are spiritually sound and practice spiritual things, it's usually because that's in alignment with their karma and their goals for the life. So I always encourage people not to force children, but still understand that who you are is important for the souls that's coming in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, hell yeah, man. Thank you. That's beautiful. So have you? How long have you been sort of in the spiritual path? Did you grow up with parents that gave that to you, or did you kind of find it on your own?
I kind of found it on my own in a sense. So I grew up in a Christian family, kind of traditional, not super religiously strict or anything. I had my freedom to do things. I played video games, played sports. I had friends who went to parties when we were young and stuff. But church every Sunday. I was baptized when I was 10, taught to believe that the Bible is true, word for word, and stuff like that. So it's really reggae music, particularly an artist called Sizzler. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but his music kind of gave me this radical kind of militant, but still philosophical way of kind of breaking those chains that I was held down by. So I didn't really read a lot before then. I went to a pretty good school in Kingston. I had parents who, where I wasn't super wealthy or anything, but we had, had a good childhood. I went to good schools and stuff, but I didn't really take to education. until like this Rastafari journey began. And for us, I always say like, for us in Jamaica, Rastafari is like that spiritual tradition, like how you will have the monks in the Himalayas, like that's Rasta for us. Yeah, I'm not saying that every Rasta is like that, but the ones that we really revere and the ones that we really look to for guidance, they're like up in the hills, you know, they don't eat anything from animals, you know what I mean? One with nature, that kind of vibe. But there's also this Afrocentric aspect to it, you know. Marcus Garvey said, look to Africa for the coming of a black king. And we saw that black king in Haile Selassie from Ethiopia. You know, he carried on the tradition from, you know, King David and King David's throne up to, so there's this biblical, religious, mythical aspect to the whole Rastafari faith as well. But for me, it was never really about the religious side. It was more about the spiritual side and the knowledge of self, you know, the looking within for truth. You know, that was the main things that that I took from the whole Rastafari journey, and it brought me into spiritual consciousness. And this for me was around, I was like 17, maybe 2002. You know, that was the year that everything kind of changed for me. And it was really, you know, reggae music and Rastafari kind of go hand in hand. You know, it's like the soundtrack to the revolution of like the 70s with Bob Marley and Peter Tosh and all of those guys. That's kind of where the legacy really is coming from. And Sizzla and a bunch of other artists from the 90s kind of took that one love energy, but was a little bit more militant with it, you know, and kind of fiery, kind of took on a fiery energy. So, you know, there's a lot of, you know, artists got a lot of slack for kind of being harsh with certain topics and, you know what I mean, speaking out against certain things very strongly, you know what I mean? So that's a part of it too, but our generation now kind of just consolidate everything from over the years and kind of have a more diplomatic view. We have a more world spiritual view of things, you know what I mean? And we try to represent that in the music. So like spirituality and music goes very much hand in hand when you're in Jamaica, like Rasta, you know what I mean?
Wow. Yeah, man. There's so many things in your story that I relate to. At 17, so you went from this religious Christian family, and then around 17, you started like having your mind becoming more open, and you started, the music was what did it for you, but it started bringing you into this more spiritual rather than religious kind of side. You called it breaking the chains, which I find very relatable to me personally, because I grew up in a religious Jewish family. Very, very religious. Like I was in Jerusalem when I was 17. I went to Jerusalem, and I was there for 2 years studying to be a rabbi. Like one of those really religious rabbis with the hats and everything. You know,
I know, yeah, of course.
And it for me, it wasn't music; it was The Matrix for some reason. Like
the movie.
The movie The Matrix. Like realizing, like, oh, maybe there's more to the world than I realized. Maybe there's like a whole other dimension to reality I didn't realize, and that like maybe I'm just in this matrix. So I started like really thinking critically, you know, like critical thinking, and like I felt like it really broke the chains of like what it kind of was like what I grew up with as sort of like brainwashing in my head. But then I became a nihilist for a while. You know what a nihilist is? Like somebody who doesn't believe in anything, doesn't care about anything. Like like thinking like that nothing has meaning.
Yo, I can relate to that. there was a phase within, because that's a part of the whole Rasta energy. It's like we just burn fire on everything. So it was like fire upon God, fire upon Jesus, fire upon the Bible. Like, you know what I mean? That whole thing was a phase, you know, and it's still kind of there, but we know how to put it in perspective now, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's the sort of that phase when you break the chains and you pop out of it and then
start from scratch.
Yeah, then
you remove everything.
Exactly. So I was, but that was I thought I was like on the truth on that phase, but like at the same time I was depressed, like because I felt like nothing mattered. You know what I mean? And like,
Gotcha.
and I didn't have like any practice, like a spiritual practice to replace the religion. So
Mm-hmm.
I was just
Mm-hmm.
like floating, free floating, and like just like in eternity. But like I knew I was gonna
Yeah.
die at some point, so it was like, well, what's the point of anything? And then
Exactly.
thankfully, I had a friend in college when I was like really on a dark path and like sort of spiraling out of control, going like really
Mm-hmm.
a lot of drugs and stuff,
Okay.
psychedelics, you know. So I had a I had a friend who knew how to meditate, and she saw I was really depressed and had anxiety, and she taught me how to meditate, and
Mm-hmm.
that was what did it for me, like sort of maybe the way that the music did it for you. Um,
Yeah.
that that meditation, it just boom, it just like I realized like, hey, there's a way to be happy without having to believe in the religion that I had believed in, and like not
Yeah.
only a way to be happy, but like it actually made me feel connected to the universe, and I started to feel like what this thing is that's we call God, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
this like the universal energy of existence, and like
Yes.
being like feeling into myself and being like just went from like depressed and anxious to like super happy. Did you have that kind of did you have that kind of like trajectory on your journey?
It was slightly different, but I can relate to a lot of aspects of it. You know what I mean? Like for me, I like in my kind of breakaway phase, it was really, you know, ganja, like marijuana, that kind of made me start thinking, like
That'll do
thinking
it.
for myself.
That'll
You
do
know,
it.
that's what kind of did it. But I've never done like anything stronger than that before. So I've never I'm 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 always somebody that wants to kind of, you know, keep my mind within certain bounds. If I feel like my mind is going outside of certain bounds, and
Huh.
that's what gives me anxiety, because I've
Oh,
dealt with anxiety too,
oh yeah.
and I went through a pretty dark phase with that too.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, that's the ganja. That's I mean that'll do it. It's that's you know I don't know if you know the like ganja is technically considered a psychedelic. I don't
yeah,
know if
yeah,
you, yeah, so it's like the lowest potent, well, not potency, but
yeah, of
sort of like
course.
mildest of the psychedelics. It's kind of like if you smoke a lot of ganja, you know, like you get all of
Then
what it's
yeah,
like sort
yeah,
of like halfway to a mushrooms trip,
true,
and the other
true.
psychedelics are just like all in that range. And I know what you mean about like keeping your mind in certain bounds. Like
Yeah.
you wanna keep it like it's sort of like a need for control. I get it. Like I have
That
to say,
is it. That for me, like the root of anxiety is feeling like you're not in control. Like for me, like I remember growing up and being afraid of elevators. Like
hmm,
once that door closes, it's like I can't open it if I want to. Like right now, I can't. You know what I mean? So if it gets stuck, that's like the worst thing. So I used to have this slight claustrophobia. It's not the worst, but you know what I mean? I experience it, you know, and I always think about that when I try to think, like, where this anxiety that I you know, I still feel it every now and then, but not like maybe 10 years ago. You know what I mean? But
uh,
I always try to think, where is this coming from? Like, you know, but then I think back to those days and remember that feeling. You know, I never really called it anxiety at the time, you know, but for me, it emerged into this thing where if I feel like certain sensations in my body that I can't explain where it's coming from,
hmm,
then that will give me that little anxiety feeling. You know what
yeah,
I mean? And then when the heart start racing and you can't stop it, then it's like you're not in control now, you know?
yeah,
So that's when it kind of sets in. But yeah, it all comes down to control. And for me, it's funny because meditation, I've always felt like I haven't fully sunken into meditation just because there's this there's this strong want to not give up an aspect of
mm,
control.
yeah,
Like I've always, because I'm very much like a mental person. I think I like a Aries, you know, Aries is ruled by the head, you know what I mean? And I always feel like when I'm meditating, I reach to this point where I feel like something is pulling me outside of my body, but at the same time, I'm feeling like I'm being pulled in,
hmm,
you know, and it's like this rush. And then I get to that point and I'm like, all right, I'm here. I'm not afraid of it. Let's just go. Let's see where this goes. But then there's this like this instinctive like anxiety feeling that just kicks in where my heart just starts to beat a little fast, even if mentally I'm not scared, you know.
Mm.
And it's like it's almost like something is programmed to not go further than that point.
To let go of
You know,
to let go of the thinking process, right? That's where the
yeah,
yeah.
the thing about it, it feels like I'm going to leave my body. That's what it feels like.
Mm.
You know what I mean? But it doesn't feel like, you know,
Oh,
a smooth process, like I'm
you
just
know
going to
what?
ease out. It feels like I'm being pulled to another galaxy
Yeah,
kind of thing.
here, wait, let me tell you something. So I hear what you're saying, and I know that feeling. It's so you feel like you're gonna leave your body, right? And
Yeah.
it's that moment that you're trying to let go of the thinking process. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you're getting there, but then it's like, oh, if I let go anymore, then it's gonna
Yeah.
be gone, right? Like it's like you call it leaving your body, or that you
Yeah. Yeah.
leave your body. So here's the crazy thing. So if you reframe the way that you think about your who you are, like
Mm-hmm.
who you are. So like it sounds like the what you're thinking of yourself is the thinking process. That's like
Mm-hmm.
that's all your thoughts and all your beliefs and your like
Yes.
Kabaka pyramid and like all of
Mm-hmm.
the things that you believe about yourself, you think about yourself. So if you are that, then as soon as you
Yeah.
stop thinking,
Then you cease to exist,
you
kind of
cease
thing.
to exist and you're gone, right?
Yeah.
So
It's
that's
like
scary.
intellectually, I know that that's not true.
Well,
Like
here's the thing, it is.
I know that myself is separate from all of that.
Right, yes. Right.
But there's one thing in knowing it intellectually, but actually like centering yourself in that knowing of it, you
Mm,
know, and feeling confident in it in the moment. That is like that I think that still takes practice, and it takes,
oh yeah.
I don't know what it takes, but
So I'll tell
I'm
you,
right there with
actually,
you.
the Buddha actually gave a really good, helpful hint for this type of thing. He said the
Mhm.
key is to stay in your body. So if you are completely absorbed in your sensations of your body,
Mhm.
your skin, your chest, your legs, everything. You can even, like, as we're talking, you can even feel into your body now, and you're here.
Yeah.
Even though we're talking, you're here in your body, right? So
Yeah.
so if you realize, and not just realize on an intellectual level, so that
Mhm.
you're more than just the thinking process and the ego and all that stuff in the head,
Mhm.
and you're also your body, and also more than that, but I mean, we won't even get
Of
into that.
course.
You don't
Of
even have to
course.
get to that point yet, because if you realize also that you're just your body,
Mhm.
then, which, and includes your thinking process and all that, then when the
Mhm.
thinking process falls away, you still have the body.
Yeah.
You're still here as your body in your body. You know what I
True.
mean?
True.
Yeah, that was what the Buddha sort of suggested.
No, for sure. I totally get that, because I've, you know, on my path, I've gotten into like, you know, I've studied like ancient Egypt spirituality with the Ka and the Ba, and learning about the different aspects of the body. I've studied like Western esotericism, like, you know, Rosicrucian stuff like Rudolf Steiner, you know, secret doctrine, Madame Blavatsky theosophy, all of that stuff. So I I think that that was important for me, because it's important to have like an an intellectual understanding of spirit. Like, you know, I feel like those traditions are important, because like for me, I can differentiate between the physical body, the etheric body, the astral body, the mental body, and the ego. Like they're all separate entities. Like I might not be able to feel each and every aspect of them and be totally conscious. Like I can't see auras or anything at this point. You know what I mean? But I understand the difference. I understand that, you know, when you're in a dream state, that you can be in your astral body. You know what I mean? You can be like, I've had, you know, dreams that ended up being like astral projections, where I came back to my body, like, and I saw my body lying on the bed and I jumped back into it, kind of thing. You know what I mean? So,
Wow.
and I have the understanding of why that happens, which is very important to me, because if I don't understand it, I can't get into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think there's a level of discipline that is tricky for, and just everyday practice that's kind of tricky for like Aries people in particular. So that has been probably my major hold back with progressing through meditation. Is like, you'll meditate today and tomorrow and the day after and the day after, and if I don't feel like I'm noticing some kind of changes, then life sets in, and maybe you're doing something at that time of night that you didn't get, so you don't get to go into your routine. And just being a musician, like, I might be at the studio and just be at the studio all day and come home like 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And just, I don't like to meditate if I'm tired. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. So just keeping up a routine has been challenging over the years too. So that just by keeping the routine steadily, you can progress through the different stages, or whatever. But that's some of the things that I've noticed over the years.
That's true. Routine is super important. It's like key. Yeah, when you said that you don't like to meditate when you're tired, it could also, a lot of times what I do is I'll just, like, when I'm falling asleep, well, I'm about to go to sleep and I just lay down and I'm like, okay, I could fall asleep thinking about things, or I could fall asleep just meditating. So then I just take that last few, like, minutes or seconds of falling asleep as meditation.
Okay.
That's like,
I've tried that a few times for sure. I could get more into a routine of that.
yeah.
I usually feel like if I fall asleep, then it's like, did you really get any? You know what I mean? It's like,
but you do.
But every little bit counts still.
Yeah, every little bit counts, and it rewires your brain. You know what I mean? So, like, even just a minute or something, it's changing the neural pathways. And if you get into a habit of falling asleep when meditating, it actually helps you to be more conscious during your sleep. Like, you can have more lucid dreams, like what you were talking about before. It's really it's a habit, and it's super easy to form. Do you meditate when you're stoned, or do you meditate when you're sober? Like,
I don't smoke anymore, so like I became like very hypersensitive to herb, so that actually it became like a trigger for anxiety for me, which is usually the opposite case, where people smoke and then they feel calmer, but like my body just became super sensitive and reactive to herb.
Bro,
So like 1 or 2 hits and like my body feels like it's buzzing and like all kind of things. So I just kind of left it alone. So I'm usually sober. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah.
Yeah, that happened. That used to happen to me all the time. The weed is not just a psychedelic; it's also a stimulant. So it'll actually take your energy up, and a lot of people think it takes your energy down because, like, they go on the couch and play video games or something. You know what I mean? And it feels it's like it's a downer, but it's actually not. It's increasing your energy in your nervous system. So that's why it can increase anxiety in a lot of people. For me, I know it does for me also, but the meditation combined with the weed really helps, because when I'm, like, if I get really stoned, and, well, first of all, I try to get, like, only a little bit stoned, you know what I mean? Like, because otherwise it gets too much.
Same way, yeah.
Yeah, if I get too stoned and then I might have anxiety and I sit and meditate and I'm in my body, then what ends up happening is I let go of the need for control. You know what I mean? Like, because, you are out of control. Like, your mind is not fully in your control. That's what psychedelics do. And then I let go of the need for control, and then that's what gets the anxiety away. It's not, the anxiety doesn't come from lack of control. It comes from not having control and feeling like you need to be in control.
Definitely. You're right. 100% right.
Yeah, and that's the thing with psychedelics. With that, I mean, everybody to each their own. But for me, what psychedelics really did is, like, there were certain points where I just completely lost control, lost it, and I was like, I'm completely out of control, and I was freaking out. That's called a bad trip. You know what I mean? Like, freaking out from lack of control. It's the anxiety. But then there's a point in that freak out where it's like, wait a second, like, maybe it's okay if I'm out of control. And, like, what happens if it's okay if I'm out of control? And then suddenly it's bliss. And that's what psychedelics do for people. I think that's, like, the the key right there. That's like,
I know for sure that the feeling, like when anxiety is easing away, is a very blissful feeling.
yeah.
Like just on a basic level. So I can relate to that, but I've never because I've dealt with anxiety so much, I just automatically feel like I'll have a bad trip with psychedelics.
Oh,
Just because
you might.
my mind is already programmed to think that it might have an anxiety reaction to certain things.
Oh yeah, it
So
might. Yeah,
yeah.
it very well might. And actually, a friend of mine once said, so I was gonna take acid and Molly together with my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife. It was
Mhm.
her first trip, and I I was talking to my friend who's like a shaman,
Mhm.
and he was like, "Oh, why are you gonna take the Molly? Like, let the acid do its thing." And I was like, "Well, it will give us a nice trip. It will give us less anxiety." And
Okay.
he was like, "Oh, you
That's
want?"
not
He's
you
he's like
want it.
he's like, "You want the Great Mother to gently take you and place you on the other side?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Interesting.
You kind of need that going through hell
Yeah.
in order to get to heaven. That's it, sort of like,
Yeah, I mean it's for thousands of years it's been done. Like even in the pyramids in Egypt, they used to lock people up in those quote unquote sarcophagi, you know what I mean? And just so that they can have the
oh,
experience of going through a death-like phase,
holy shit, I
and you
didn't know
come
that.
out on the other side fully enlightened, or not fully, but on the
Wow,
path.
that's crazy. I had no idea that they did that. It's kind of
No, for
like a
sure.
sensory deprivation tank type of thing.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I
that's
know I know people who I read this book that somebody I think he wrote it or he compiled some information and gave it to me. And he said literally, if you stay in a room that's fully dark for like I think 5 to 7 days,
hmm.
you will come out like being able to see like astral forms and that kind of stuff.
Wow, that's
Like it's a like a real initiation thing.
it is an initiation. That's exactly what it is. It's like, the Native Americans, they have this ritual. I mean, well, not all the Native Americans, but in the past, there have been
Hmm.
Native American tribes that would send the like 12-year-old, 13-year-old boys out on like
Hmm.
a vision quest, where
Definitely.
they would be like, hey, go to the forest. Well, they would kind of put them in the forest, in the middle of the forest.
Hmm.
The kids would either have to find their way back, or maybe
Hmm.
they knew their way back, but they weren't allowed to come back yet until they saw these visions. So it's kind of like an initiation where you have to face reality, you
Yeah.
have to face yourself,
Definitely. They
without.
do it in African traditions too. Lots of them, even to this day.
Wow.
Yeah, like Yoruba, and they have to go out on that quest. For
Oh wow.
sure.
So they have a similar type of thing, like a vision quest in the Yoruba traditions.
Definitely. To
Wow.
my knowledge, yeah. Yeah, to my knowledge.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm so fascinated by all of these world traditions, all of the traditions around the world, because to me it's
Yeah.
like, okay, so when I found meditation, it was like, oh, the Buddhists, they had the answer the whole time. But then it was like,
Yeah, yeah.
and then my wife, when I met my wife, she was like in the Hindu traditions, and she was
Mm-hmm.
like, and she was, and I was like, what? That's weird. But then like I started to get into it, and I was like, oh, that's actually amazing. And then I started to
Yeah.
realize that there's the spirituals, the same types of spiritual traditions. Like they might differ in like appearance, but
Yeah.
they all have this very powerful core of like,
They all come from beings from the spirit world. That's really all where it comes from. And they reach out to different races, to different nations throughout different points in history and give them the program that works for their karma. Because we have like group karma as races and as people. And anytime you group anywhere, you develop a karma for that group. And that karma starts to shape the lives of the people. So when they come with these world religions or these world movements of spirituality, it's for the karma of those people. And then sometimes we who had past lives in those eras, we still come back in this life and still resonate with those teachings. You know what I mean? Because somewhere in our legacy and our lineage, you know what I mean, which we've been through that. So we need it to activate something in this life.
yeah, that's a beautiful way of thinking of it, as these spirit beings that are coming to the different places around the world to
Yep.
convey these different spiritual practices and spiritual traditions.
For sure.
I personally, I don't have this like personal experience with the spirit beings. I don't know, maybe
Yeah, yeah.
maybe I do, and I just don't know what. Maybe I don't call them that.
Of
Like
course.
I think I came from like in my childhood. Well, besides being religious Jewish, like ironically, my mom is like a scientist,
Mm-hmm.
and she like brought us up with this very scientific mentality and like thinking about things in terms of like the body and the brain and the mind. And
Materialistic. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, exactly. Philosophical materialism as sort of a
Mm-hmm.
foundation, which is weird because it contrasts with her like philosophical idealism in the
Yeah.
religion.
Religious
So
sense.
I don't get that.
Those are the two. Those are the two poles, opposing poles that somehow humanity finds themselves caught in the middle, and it's
Yes,
so crazy.
it
But
is crazy.
I think like this guy named Rudolf Steiner, bro. Like, trust me, he has a full understanding of those two poles, and he writes in a way that can appeal to both.
I gotta check
Like,
out Rudolf Steiner. I gotta check that out. I'm gonna maybe I'll find one of his books. But
so much
what I was
stuff
gonna say,
online available. Yeah.
my mom brought us up with this like materialist way of thinking about the body and the mind,
Mm-hmm.
and even though she does believe in angels, I don't know. But anyway, that's I came out of the
Mm-hmm.
religion with this sort of
Mm-hmm.
materialist way of thinking about it, and like the way I think of it is like it's actually kind of similar. It's what you call angels or like maybe
Mm-hmm.
spirit beings or whatever. I would kind of see it as like these parts of the brain that have evolved that
Mm-hmm.
are the same in all of the humans, and I'm not sure why they evolved this way, but it seems like to me that all the humans around the world that spread out all from Africa, all over, including Australia and the Americas and Europe and like
Mm-hmm.
Siberia, everywhere, that
Mm-hmm.
they all have this part of the brain that gravitates towards spirituality and spiritual experience, and that they need it. It's like a need
Mm-hmm.
in humans. You know what I mean?
True.
And it bubbles up and it manifests in almost the same way. I mean, in different forms, but it like the same core, the same heart of like looking inward, like being able to confront your mind, like being one with
Yeah.
the universe, like being kind and loving toward other people. It manifests in the same kind of way. To me, that's so fascinating that that's manifested all over the world. So I actually
Yeah,
wanted
no, for sure.
I wanted
Go
to
ahead, go
ask
ahead.
you, I wanted to ask you because you're I think you have a lot of interesting like knowledge about
Mm-hmm.
like Africa and like the African spiritual traditions, like you were talking about in Egypt and the Yoruba
Mm-hmm.
and you were talking about. So can you like tell me a little bit about this, because the sarcophagus thing is really cool, and like I didn't know about that. I know that there's like significance to the pyramids and that there's something
Yeah.
astrological significance with it, and I've also heard that like all of like yoga kind of started in Egypt, like the Kemetic yoga. I've heard about these things,
Mm-hmm.
but I haven't really dived into them. Can you like professor it up
Yeah.
me a little
So
bit?
all right. So there's two schools of thought when it comes to like the origins of like intelligent human beings and spiritually conscious human beings. Like there is the if you look at physical science and like archaeology and stuff like that, it points to Egypt, like from the Nile Valley, from Ethiopia going straight up to Egypt. Um, and that is because for me, I find that the Egyptian era, that was the point where human beings, because we have a long legacy of like evolution as human beings, and there was a point where we existed in bodies that consisted of like ether, that didn't consist of this physical matter that we're in right now. So the when you hear them talk about Atlantis and stuff, I do believe that those points in history to be real. And the reason why we don't see any evidence of it now, one, because that that area of the planet is now sunken by water, but also that it wasn't a densely physical existence like we are now. So we wouldn't have left back artifacts or fossils or anything like that. But the point in time where we began to evolve towards physical beings now, that point really emerged, you know, out of Africa, like the northeast region of Africa. So when we're looking at like Egypt now, we can see the earliest signs of spirituality. Like the Egyptian, like the dynastic period, from the beginning of the dynastic period around 4000 BC, there was a full knowledge of the afterlife process. You know what I mean? And everything in Egypt was about preparing yourself to go through the afterlife process. So all of the things that you see on the wall, all of the hieroglyphics, first of all, even hieroglyphics is the language in Kemet, which was called Medu Neter, the words of the gods, is basically astral vision codified in pictures. Because when you have astral sight and you look into the astral world, you see symbols for everything. Like when you see like the group soul of an animal, because animals have like group souls, you know, they don't have like individual souls like how humans have. When you see the group soul of an animal, you see a human looking figure with the head of that animal. That's what you see in the astral world. And those are the images you see all over Egypt. You're seeing like, you know, humans with the head of a ram, like Amun. You're seeing like humans with the head of a crocodile or whatever it is, like the falcon, Heru. You know, these are all archetype, symbolic figures that we could see in the astral world. So everything in Egypt was about astral vision. Like the average person probably had some realms of clairvoyance. But the thing about it is, what I've realized is that human beings go through a cycle of descending consciousness and then an ascension. And where we are at right now is like at that turning point, where we've reached to the lowest point, like the materialistic age of like the 1900s, where it was just pure materialism. Like they were killing out all the shamans and the witches and everybody who had any kind of spiritual knowledge, because they were pushing this atomic theory materialism. That was the lowest point in our evolution. But it's still progress, because as even though we're descending, we're still moving forward. So when you look to previous eras, like when you think about the origins of like the first Indian age, this is before like physical existence. We are all like very spiritual beings, but we were all like children. It's almost like how symbolically you look at like a baby right now. A baby is very much in tune to the spirit world. A baby can still see spirits around it. A baby can see all kind of things, but their consciousness as an individual is very young. It's still very infant. So when they start to grow now and the brain develops, they become more withdrawn from the spiritual world. So that was what was happening throughout our evolution. From the Indian phase to the Persian phase to the Egyptian phase, all of these names are like symbolic for like thousands and millions of year periods that we went through. You know what I mean? And this is the kind of esoteric tradition that you will get from theosophy and from, you know, Rudolf Steiner. Now, when you hear about Atlantis and Lemuria and all of these phases that we went through. So now the Egyptian phase was like, we were definitely physical beings. There was a total dominance of the physical nature of the planet. Like we could move, you know, big, you know, 1,000-ton stones, you know, with mental energy or whatever it was we used. We knew how to manipulate that because we were still on a very spiritual level. But the mass of humanity at the time could still have these lingering spiritual abilities. But as far as an individual consciousness to express your own individuality, it was still very young. So we came through that phase to know where we're fully individual now. We don't care, we break away from religions now. We break away from nationalities. You're Jewish, I'm Jamaican, African. We're talking like we're brothers. You know what I mean? That's where we're at now. But most of us are really like cut off from our spiritual nature. We don't have that astral vision anymore. But if you get initiated now, that's when you as an individual, not you as a race or you as a nation, in previous eras, we didn't think for ourselves. We thought as a tribe, or we thought as a people. Like when you think about the Greeks, you think about a strong nation pride. It was not an individual pride, but the philosophers from the Greek times were setting the foundation for an individual consciousness. You know what I mean? And then I just see it as a long evolutionary process, and I kind of look at these phases symbolically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you think about tribal Africa, it's a very instinctive consciousness, but very in tune with nature. Like one could go out in the wild and just be one, you know what I mean? And understand how to move without having a super brain intellect kind of way of processing things that we have developed in this day and age.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I know what you mean. I like the way that you're talking about the sort of evolution, like of consciousness going down, going up, moving forward.
Involution and evolution, yeah.
It feels like that right now in the United States. I don't know if you were here during the election, but right now it's feeling like one of those points of change.
Definitely.
Yeah, maybe like
I think
that low point that you were talking about, and now we're hopefully heading in a better direction.
I do agree with that. I do agree with that. I feel like that's what's happening symbolically. I think we always have hills and valleys, even in the cycle.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So there will always be little ups and downs, but I think a major shift is happening.
Oh yeah.
I don't like believe that the Democratic Party stands for everything that they stand for and everything, but I do believe that on a symbolic level.
Yeah.
Bigger, it's bigger than what the Biden or anybody represents. It's bigger than them. They're true. Just symbols and mouthpieces.
I totally agree. I totally agree with you. I mean, I think that there's a lot of problems in both of the major political parties in the United States. I think that I wish that there were some better parties. Like I knew that Biden would win New York, so I voted for the Green Party. You still there, Kabaka? I can't see you anymore.
Yeah, I just I was trying to swipe a notification and then I went out. But anyway.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so I mean, I voted for the Green Party. I think because I knew that Biden was going to hold New York anyway. But even them, if they took power, they would probably also get corrupted somehow. It's just like power ends up corrupting people.
Power corrupts. Yeah.
I know you have a 3 p.m., so we got to wrap this up. But I wanted to ask you, because I was just watching that video, Trample Them.
Yeah.
So you have another video, a previous release that I saw was called what was it called? Relax. What was it called? Stress relief.
Which one is that? Stress relief. Yeah.
Yeah, stress relief. And I thought, okay, that sounds like sort of like a meditation-y one. And then there's this Trample Them, which at least the title seems to be a bit more militant, like you were talking about.
More militant, just a bit.
Yeah, a bit more militant. So yeah, comparing the titles of stress relief and Trample Them. I saw here. I'm just going to share my screen here. So the video itself. I really like this video. It's kind of like this. Here, I'm going to mute this or just put it on very low. The video itself is this. It looks like an Egyptian pharaoh type of guy or something. Some Egyptian type of guy running, like riding on some horses and shooting arrows and talking about trampling them. I'm not sure who them are.
So let me explain this one. So the idea for the artwork came from a famous picture. I believe it was King Amos of the I don't remember which dynasty in Egypt, but that's kind of a typical way for Egyptian, art, to represent the pharaohs as these huge beings, and then they're trampling the enemy, which I believe was the Hyksos at the time. But this song is really about, talking about child abusers, pedophiles, and stuff. That's a major issue in Jamaica.
Oh wow.
You know what I mean? So it's really, I'm not literally, calling for people to kill them. I'm not saying that, but it's like, metaphorically speaking, like we need to trample that out of society.
Oh
You know
wow.
what I mean? We need to get rid of that because I do believe that child abuse and trauma is at the root of so many problems in society.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And yeah, for sure.
I didn't realize what it was about. When I had heard it the first time, I assumed that it was some kind of a political thing. So, and I thought, wow, that's really militant. And
I mean, I do have some.
I'm glad it's against a group that everybody can sort of get behind.
Yeah, no, for sure, because we have to be very careful in these times, especially as artists, because people are very sensitive about stuff, so I try to do things, as diplomatically as I can, with the goal in mind, with the betterment of society in mind. You know what I mean? So I try to attack things. I have a song called Well Done, where it's like sarcastically congratulating the government for doing a great job of tearing down the country. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it says, well done, Mr. Politician, man. Yeah. You done a wonderful job of tear down the country, demolition, man. So I do have like political songs, and I just released a mixtape where I have a song called Election Time. That's the only time you come around, the only time you make a sound. You're full of promises, but you never honor this. We don't see you till election time. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So so I like to touch on these various topics. But from a meditation perspective, I think you will like a song I did called Quiet Thoughts. I think that one would probably resonate with you. You know what I mean? And maybe it can make your listeners check out that one too. Quiet Thoughts.
I'm definitely going to check that one out. I know you got to go because you got that 3 p.m. in 3 minutes. It's been great talking to you, Kabaka. It's you have shared with us so much wisdom, so much knowledge, and coming into this, I just thought, hey, the guy makes music. I didn't really know what you knew or what you knew about or what your wisdom was.
No, man, I like these kind of interviews where I get to, go deeper into certain things. So sometimes I burst out with soap because I'm just waiting for like the right interview, like to share certain things. So
yeah, bro, that's what we do. Definitely. That's what we do. And I'll share this. I'm going to put this on our podcast, and then I'm going to pull quotes from it for maybe a piece in the magazine. Just send me some really high-res photos. If you can get high-res photos with you meditating in Jamaica or things like that,
that would be nice.
Awesome stuff. Like meditation in Jamaica, high-resolution photos from like a good camera.
Yeah,
that would be sick.
I'll work on it for you. I'll work on it for you.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, man.
Right. Thanks.
Got you.
It's really nice.
Bless up your wife too.
Thank you.
All right, yeah, man. Take care.
Bye.